So the budget is never done, huh? It's always a work in progress, ain't it?
Yeah, although we're trying to publish to go out today to council and the measure.
Oh, right. Yeah, because you only get that 3 days, right? And today's Thursday, you got no choice.
We had some changes. This is kind of a running tally of just some cleanup stuff, basically.
Okay.
Get this out.
Right.
So it's a, so I got a number of staff, we're kind of scrambling to get it all done.
Oh, I believe
So if we, you know, could at least cover enough high-level stuff that allows you to, you know,
Feel comfortable.
Get a little more comfort versus comprehensive. Glad to meet with you again after, but let's see here.
Okay, that'd be encouraging.
Yeah.
So of course, you know, one of the major reasons that really concerned me, or did you have something already prepared you want to talk about first?
No, I think just ask away. I can answer your questions. I can give you an overview or whatever you're interested in right now. Zooming in, and I didn't really get into detail on your request for the material going back to 1999. I pretty much just responded saying, you know, I didn't even come close to getting to this because I need to focus. I was here late and got up at 2:30 in the morning just because it's just we need to finalize it and get it out the door.
Okay.
So,
and I think I mentioned 99 because in the budget of last year it says, you know, CalPERS changed a lot with the government.
yeah, in
So
like the
that's-
last 4 or 5 years, there's been, I listed them all in the letter, of number of changes that are more recent, and you know, going back, you know, there's other changes, but they've been tightening it up, and it's healthy because it's you know, as the economy recovers, it forces cities to start funding a little more. You know, they've adjusted their assumptions to be more conservative, as the chief actuary said, so I can sleep at night. And for cities, instead of using the recovery money to start, you know, doing other things, it forces them to start putting money aside, you know, as they ramp
Keeping
up
your
the
reserve.
5 years.
Yeah. So okay, I guess I meant to bring the budget report deal. So we said 7 and 9 is what you're doing right now for pension, and now 50% for new employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is 50% in relation to the 7 and 9?
Okay, so as far as it's, I think it's 12% for classic is their rate.
Okay, that's the
And
non-public safety?
Non-public safety.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the public safety is going to be a little higher?
And public safety, I believe, yeah, let's see here, I have that. We have all our assumptions built in.
And before that, the city would take the remainder. So if you're at 12% is 50%, then 24%, and if they were only
What do you
paying
mean the
us-
city would take
Well,
the
does the city does the city put any money for pensions?
Yeah, so yeah, employees portion and the employer's portion, that's right.
Okay,
I understand.
so before it was 7% and 24% total, and now it's going to be 12% and 24% total.
Yeah, hang on, let me pull this up and make sure I answer your questions correctly.
Sure.
So for classic employees or existing employees prior to Petra, it continues as is until 2018 when they are required to pay half.
Okay.
And so that's coming up.
Oh gosh, so in a couple of years they're phased out no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay.
For new employees that have never worked for a public agency, they are already on this new deal, half of the 12. And, yeah, let's see, so miscellaneous employees that are new. So, I guess PERS does a blended rate that includes both for pool, and we're part of the pool for fire, and then we have our own rate. So I'm pretty sure either way it's a blended rate, taking into consideration the all existing employees and the new ones under the new. So it's not like we can take this rate. So the rate is 15.4 is the current rate. It'll go up to about 15.96% of covered payroll from miscellaneous. And safety, police is 40.24 is the blended rate, and for fire is, well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 tiers. The existing firefighters is way up there, 54, and then the new employees is like 17, 11, and 12 based on the tier. So we,
And blended is the employee and employer part, is that what you mean?
I believe this is the employer portion only. And the employee pays, I think the existing, if it's 9, let's see, I think it's in here. 9%. Yeah. Public safety pay 9% and non-safety pays 7%.
Okay.
And that's for existing.
Right.
And so any of the new employees would only pay, I believe, 50% of their rate, not the blended rate. I'm pretty sure that's the case, and I could check with
Okay.
my staff on that. So
Which
anyway,
would bump the percentage numbers up to 12%, like you said?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure their rate is 12%. The blended rate is like 15.96 next year.
Okay. So, Mr. Corpus put out, 4 main reasons why you need a new tax revenue stream. March 25th, 2014.
He said that our cost drivers are that. He didn't say that's why we're asking for more money. It's a completely represented by Amit, and Ray DeLoe also jumped on that bandwagon. Actually, Ray probably said it first. And I mentioned that when we spoke last. They jumped on that statement because he said it in his opening remarks at the beginning of the budget session that these are the main cost drivers of the city. We are financially challenged, but the message is we're managing that budget. We're not going to supplant Measure G money to make up for that. The closest thing that I mentioned is the furlough. We are, employees gave up over $6 million a year. $2 million of that, roughly, is the furlough, and that's time off without pay. So they didn't get paid. They gave up that pay so we could balance. They worked less hours.
10% of their pay, right?
10% of the pay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Measure G is going to pay for bringing those employees back and pay for it. It's not.
How come it wasn't in the ballot language? I mean, it just came up as "and other city services."
It's a general tax. The ballot language.
Was that an intent
to do what?
to end Friday furloughs?
At the time, it was discussed. It was discussed publicly when we were out there before it even had a Measure G. It was discussed publicly that we would be probably looking at ending and restoring services on Fridays. Yeah, that was very public, and yeah.
I guess I just never seen any kind of flagger. So Was there, when Tony asked?
Show you, it might even be in it, maybe not.
I've seen an email sent out by the city. I've seen the Measure G website, and none of it ever mentioned anything about a Indian Friday for those.
So, well, anyway, the brochure that had Better Safer Salinas that the city did,
Okay, that wouldn't be what's on the website,
not necessarily.
because I've got a
So,
little bit of that.
Anyway, it wasn't, it was discussed, but
Okay.
that's, go ahead.
How about when Tony asked the chief, about you have money for 22 more cops, and you just can't fill the vacancies because you can't find qualified. That was his response. You can't find qualified applicants to fill them.
What's the context? Who said this again? I'm sorry, I missed
On the March 31 of this year,
that. March.
Tony asked, it looks like we have money for like 22 cops, and but we just can't
Yeah,
fill it
I remember
for whatever reason, only you know.
Right.
And you say basically we can't find qualified
Yes,
applicants.
that was the answer.
So where does that money come from?
That is general fund and other funding sources.
So that's at least like $2.5 million then, right, for 22 cops?
Yep.
Okay, so that money,
It's still
but
there.
that was part of why we said we needed money, was because we didn't have money for more cops, but we had money for cops.
We have money, so we have, if you look at the trend, we went from 188 down to 145 police
Right,
officers.
at your time.
And we are, at the time, this 21, whatever it was, the number, I don't think it's that high, but
Right, and he's filled a couple since then.
yeah.
Or a few.
So we have we funded 145. With the new money, we're bringing that up by 35, plus 35. We still need to fill these, and we need to fill these now. So we're going back up to 180.
Okay. So when you guys
we're
mention
restoring-
145 is what you're funded,
Yeah.
it's kind of, it seems a little, could be construed as being deceptive, as far as this is how many people we can pay for it, but our actual force is less. Does that make sense?
Say it, say it one more time.
Well, we're saying we've got 145 cops, but then we have 21 vacancies.
Yeah. I think I understand the heart of your issue. The issue is if we say these are now funded with G, and we still only have 145 budgeted, but that's not the case.
Right, but yeah, because 21 was already there.
Yeah, so there, I don't see any misrepresentation. If someone doesn't understand what is being said, I can understand that, but
Yeah,
there
well,
is- we're not.
in the budget, it doesn't say like, here's how many cops we actually have on the force, and
It
then
does.
here's.
It's right here, every year, and it goes back, sworn positions, so there's the 188 and there's the 145 I just mentioned.
Right.
Every year, and so.
And then, but that's.
And they track, where they're at. They got people on workers' comp, disability, people
Right.
that are part of this, we can't hire because they're filled still, but they're out on disability, they're not out on the street. And so to maintain minimum staffing levels, we have to call people back to work double, shift.
Right, right, so that's still the 145, which you just said, 21 of them. So is the real number, like,
The
you have
real number
145
is
who are
what is
actually on?
budgeted. You
and
have
then
to
the-
always
then
stick with budgeted.
Okay, well then, but then that's some 145 minus the 21, right?
As far as who's available to go on a shift and work that day and whatever, yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to,
Yeah, understand.
you
Yeah, no, it's important, because, trust me, when I do the budget, I know this in detail, every position, and that's important, and someone comes, like, one of the department heads and starts talking about who's, on workers' comp and who's out sick and this and that, it doesn't matter, you got that many people, yeah.
Okay. one or the other, it's there.
Yeah.
So we got the pensions, healthcare, and workers' comp. I mean, I guess that's I mean, and I watched the whole thing. You know, I watched the whole city council meeting. So, you know, and I did hear a little bit about public safety, but I heard a lot more of it being referring to beautifying Salinas. You know, trees and streets, and sidewalks. So, but it did mention in their cops too, which kind of leads me back to, well, you already had 22 funded vacancies that you weren't filling, which could have easily been farmed out, I guess. Why is it that Salinas is the only city in the county that has their own training center? Everybody else seems to look like San Jose.
I'm not really, yeah.
Okay.
To
Yeah,
answer
just,
that.
yeah. Just seems a little different, you know.
We are the biggest city in the county, and we're our force. I don't know how many cops the county has, but as far as size-wise, we're
At least double,
we're
triple.
yeah, half the population just right.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and we're the county seat, you know, so that makes sense too. How much were we paying? Because you mentioned like in a couple of years we're going to be back to a deficit, right? Another
Yeah, that forecast has changed, so it's better. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, I don't want to.
So about it, there's a deficit. So, so we going into it, the deficit was really large. So our revenues have improved significantly.
Right.
And
Extra
that-
in the UUT.
The UUT is what actually we have gotten a month and a half of results. Just 2 days ago, June 6th, I looked at the postings and saw some of the cell carriers receipts, and they were big, and we're able to increase our estimates for that, which has reduced the.
Well, aren't you anticipating a major drop as soon as the seniors who expected to not be hit by that fulfill their applications and everything?
Yeah, and they get a discount on all of the utilities, not just the telecommunication that we've reduced. So the rate is reduced, but we're seeing an increase from cell phone usage, which will be more than we expected.
It almost seems usurious because now you have gas, you have electric, you have cell phone, all different utilities that you're paying taxes for.
That has always been whenever we adopted this, however far back. So it's just, the only thing that changes, we reduced the rate for 2 of the utilities, and we modernized it to include cell phones, basically.
Right, and cable, I guess.
Cable equipment, yeah.
And, you know, if you have satellite or whatever, same difference, right? And that kind of trails back to wherever your residential or billing address goes to, you know, wherever the service
In the
lies.
city, yeah, and I believe, where the service is, if they're a resident.
Okay, and with the deficit, the structural deficit, you know, you said $6 million a year for concessions. So are we now in a position, because I guess the way that I've been told to understand the contracts is like, well, you know, you guys, the city employees gave concessions, and that's why everybody's always said, you know, 30 million because 6 for 5 years, you know. And when I asked at the town hall meeting with Barrera and Shane, they both, you know, yeah, you know what, first 10 million we got to pay back, you know, for concessions. Why would they say that?
Part of the concession is the furlough, so that it's paying for that. As far as the rest of it, it's not the case. The general fund is paying for any of the other concessions that expire as they get expired. So why they are saying that, you know, I'm not sure exactly what they were referring to, so I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I mean, I would almost assume it came out of some kind of closed session thing with the contracts.
No, I mean, what we're seeing here is exactly what's going on, and we, you know, we know when MOUs expire, and that's all built in the budget, and that's part of the projections. As far as balancing, you know, we could just as easily do what they're saying and plug this gap with G, but that's not what we want to do, and that's not what we intended to do ever, and we're not doing that.
Okay, so
We have to figure out
the
other ways to do
unions and city employees are not expecting anything for the last 5 years, and are they picking it up from this point forward? Because there was a
Going
4%
forward,
increase.
Right,
per
all
year,
those will, as the
and then that one stalled.
concession expires, those will be added back, and we've got a balance. And obviously, if that means we need to cut certain things, we'll cut to balance. But our intent is to you know, going forward, to let those concessions expire and not renew.
Okay, so the
Some of
last
them have
4%
expired.
is just left on the table, and nobody's getting that?
No, as the concessions expire, those will be,
Renewed.
we
Or
need to,
honored, I guess.
honored.
Okay, because that's contractually obligated.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why a couple of guys were like, you know, you have no choice, you have to, you know, pay them. So those raises are in there, that's an extra at least 5 million, right?
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
6
there were
million,
4
yes.
million. 6 was including 2 million for furlough. So,
Okay.
and that's including police and fire
Mhm.
and miscellaneous, all of them.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, your works comp and pension and healthcare go along with those kind of costs. So what kind of costs were we looking at last year as opposed to this year and next year?
Yeah, we have significant increases that drive this, but it's down to a more manageable level, largely because there's more revenue.
Right.
As far as the exact cost, I had, you know, in the PowerPoint, you know, broken out exactly what changed from last year to this year, and going forward, I think total wise, we're talking, yeah, like 2.5 million, roughly, a year. You know, $1.5 million. Yeah.
For all the current 450 employees?
Yeah.
And is that including now the extra, I guess, 20 or 30 more hires that we're budgeting for per department? You know, because we have 6, I guess, in
Yeah,
library.
this is just the general fund I'm talking about. Measure G, all that is built in there. We figured out how many staff we can hire, what is sustainable over the 15 years.
Okay, even though we're going into a deficit set?
G is separate from the general fund. The general fund, we believe we can manage the structural deficit. We believe that we can address this, and I described how we are gonna kind of address it. There's a number of things we're
Right, like
working on.
more housing market sales and.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but there's, you know, we'll be looking at, you know, cutting costs, doing things more efficient. There's a number of things that are on the plate. We're looking at a long-term solution, growing the pie with economic development efforts. We're looking at, we have user fees, like our permit center is like 20% cost recovery, which means we don't charge enough for our planning part of it. So that's something that most cities eat. We're trying to recover a little more of that cost, and those fees are going to be brought back. So a number of things. and using party-based budget, we'll identify those programs that are least, scored the least in the third and fourth quartile, and consider, do we wanna do less of that?
How do contracts get so high, I guess, you know?
Employee contract?
Yeah,
Well-
I guess we constantly negotiate a higher price. These are stuff you can get off of like transparency.com. Has that, when's the last time the
It's done once a year. One, we send this to the state. Two, Jeff Mitchell asks for it and he publishes it in the paper, the whole thing.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean,
every
the
year.
last one I could find was like, this is like when Vallarta was still on the payroll. So that's like 3 years ago.
Okay.
The other city attorney?
Yeah, oh, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just did it less than a year ago, and he's, and it's, our salary schedule's published in here, and what he published is what people make, so it's right after we, each, like January, right after, or February, right after the W-2 information is finished.
Right.
He asked for it and we ship it off.
Okay. I haven't seen that lately. I guess maybe I just haven't been paying attention. So, like, with the fire department, how many fires are there in the city a year?
I don't know offhand. That's something you'd have to ask them to get stats on.
Well, I mean, do you, like I know they go to a lot of paramedic calls. I mean, they follow every ambulance call, right?
70-some% of the calls are medical emergencies, and they're usually the first ones there before AMR, the ambulance transport service.
Yeah, I know that one. And they're the only ones contracted for the county, I think.
Correct. Through 2024 or something like that.
Do they need to take the big fire trucks? I mean,
That's
wouldn't
a
it be
good
better
question,
to use
and I
vans
have
or something?
the same question I've asked them, city managers asked them. Our goal and what's in the budget, you'll see it, is to begin squad cars with 2-man and to respond to the medical emergency.
Yeah.
And there's reasons why they don't like that, and there's reasons why up and down the state of California you may find like one other city like LA or two that have done less than taking a whole big engine out to a call with 3 people or a truck with 4 people. So it's an issue that it's a lot of resources. It's not gonna help us cut, but it'll help us be more efficient as we increase our response time. So
Yeah, and even one, I mean, correct me, I don't know if maybe you know, you may not, but even just to take a truck like, 4 or 5 blocks down the street from their own station costs at least $4,000 round trip.
I don't know, but yeah, it's when you add everything in there.
And that's just equipment, not even people.
Wow.
Maybe I'm wrong on the detail, but
With people, probably.
so I guess I've experienced a couple of, because this is why I guess I'm asking, because I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. You got 10 guys that show up and only one guy's really interacting with the patient, and it's like, what are these guys doing here? I mean, I understand, could be life-threatening, and they could save somebody's life. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So, but then, how are they more trained than the AMR people? And I mean, or should they be more in the AMR position? Because it just, and I guess it kind of, to me, it just feels like, well, contracts. We had to stay busy and justify why we're getting 90 to 150,000 to do something, and then a lot of these guys just kind of stand around. I mean, I've had tow truck guys, come up to accidents like 45 minutes after, and they've already there, and then they're like, yeah, you throw down the sweep, and they're like, we don't have the money for it, and that was, it's like, so you're gonna make the tow truck guy throw the sweep because you guys
What's
get
a
some money. For like chemicals or anything wet, and you throw down some powder to kind of keep it down and absorb it, that kind of stuff. But, you know, and then they have money to just kind of stand around and chat and laugh and hang out. And
Yeah, well, if there's no other emergency going on, you know, they'd be back at the station doing it. So if they got another call, they would probably wrap it up quicker and get out. But the point is well taken. It's an issue up and down the state that is something I'm hoping that we'll see some change. And it's not something that you just flip the switch to change, but we're going to make some incremental steps toward that.
just seems like, you know, that would be like you know, like if we don't really have that many fires, and like I said, if we're gonna start doing 2 or 3 man teams, and I mean, because my roommate actually had a near heart attack, right? And so, you know, he had a very much shortness of breath. He called his doctor. He said call 911. The ambulance actually made it there first in the fire department. And then you got like 10 guys in there, and only one guy's actually doing something and talking to him. And you know, like, and then the ambulance guys are the only ones that are, I mean, well, the fire department was the one that took the blood pressure, you know, and was talking to him and asking, got all his medical wallet, and then he ended up leaving it on the dresser by accident, you know. But because there was so much commotion, I don't know if maybe that's why they forgot it, because he just got handed off and then somebody else just put it on the dresser. So then I couldn't even find him. I mean, I almost thought, well, maybe they sent him to the morgue, because I called Natividad, I called Salinas Valley, and then neither of us, oh, we don't have him, and so I called back to Natividad, and then I call the number, the fire department number, automated service. So, you know, here I'm frantic for like 2-3 hours trying to find this guy. Where'd they take him? And then I'm thinking, well, maybe they took him to the morgue. You know, I don't know. I mean, so it was a stressful experience. And I guess it just throws me off 10 people to kind of do what 2 or 3 people could have done, while everybody else is just kind of standing around and waiting, you know.
10 seems, you know, there's 4 on a ladder truck. That's the biggest.
Oh, okay, and yeah, there was a couple of trainees here too. I guess young guys, real young guys.
Yeah, and that's good, because we have the trainees.
Right, and you know, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It just threw me off.
Yeah. So what others?
I mean, can they convert to like a volunteer basis, or
can we talk, or you know, see if there's any other more subjects that are that's a big subject, and we could go on for quite a while.
Okay.
And there's nothing going to change, or immediately between now and
most
Tuesday
of
night.
that has
And we're working on every way, but I
Okay.
would love to talk more, because that it's an area that I'm actually going to be focusing in a little bit, and helping try to see what changes we can make with the city manager.
Well, that sounds workable, you know, and I know the unions are typically the strongest voices to any kind of opposition like that.
Yeah.
With the, because I guess the way that I've understood how the 20 million breaks out, you know, I mean, so we're still ended up with we're not doing anything from the last 5 years, right? We're not paying anything for the last 5 years.
No,
That's
no
off the table.
retroactive.
No,
Never. There was never going to be.
Why did we still end up with a $14 million deficit? And how has that changed through the last 5 years?
Yeah, no, that's the big question. Revenues have increased more than we were expecting, and we've fine-tuned our cost estimates. We have a lot of it is we've brought down the number of employees over the last 5 years, and
Not just keeping it funded and vacant? but just eliminating them altogether?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've had to ratchet down. We were shooting to get to a base that we were like good to go from there, meaning cut down and cut enough to not have a structural deficit. So we haven't done that, but we're gonna, we believe we can manage this amount going forward, and deal with it. So we'll still have to do something. What else? I mean, that's the main thing. The PERS rates are still going up, and that's, you know, all driven by the state and
Right.
beyond our control. It's a, you know, it goes up, ramps up 5 years, stabilizes, I forget how long, and then ramps down, I think maybe 10, 15,
Okay.
I forget.
Because a lot of people will be dying off, I guess, baby boomers.
Just their rate structure, that they've built, they increase it, get it funded, hold that line for a while, and then they'll ramp down, and it'll be at a,
Build their reserve, and then they'll be able to.
their goals will be met as far as funding levels
Okay.
and
So we, currently you said we're at 14 million, right?
it's about,
Now, the mayor put in a soapbox saying that there was no structural deficit.
I don't think I read that, but I believe the message there is that we're currently balanced. Our budget is balanced. As far as the future, we're gonna manage that, and, you know, when we project it out, that's what it is. You know, it's been that way since I've been here. You know, before PERS did their rate increases, it ramped up, it stabilized. So if we could deal with that structural deficit, we were good, but then PERS changed it so that sent us skyward. Yeah, I'd have to read exactly what he said to understand
Okay. Yeah, and
what
I
that
can't.
means.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could try to pull it up. So now we are paying the concessions going forward. Okay, that's at least 5 million a year, right?
We are planning on it, and it's total of 6, 2 of it is furlough, so
Okay.
4 besides
Right. Okay.
furlough.
So it's slid in there though. I mean, in some sense, it's still the 5 million, right? Because we're putting the Friday furlough in the G, and then the rest of it is still general fund. And then the healthcare costs that are going through the roof, and pensions, which are also set by the state, and then workers' comp. How much of an increase was there in the level of that?
In workers' comp, let's see. General fund alone was, and that was in the slides. Increase was 600,000, 16.11% increase. That's the biggest increase. And let's see here. Yeah.
And before, weren't you at just 400,000? Or
And that was just general fund. I mean, if you had Measure B, and there's more added to that. What was the question?
well, okay, so
Total?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
total.
I'm surprised you don't have it, you know,
I
set
have it
kinda
any way
like
you
your
wanna do it.
priority base, like just employee, how much you have to put in for all your employees, and you know,
What number you want? You want workers' comp whole citywide
yeah.
is 1 million, 1.1 million citywide. It went up to 500,000, or 5 million from 4 million. So I
Okay.
have it
Okay.
any way to slice and dice.
Okay, yeah. I hope you're better, right? You're the finance guy. But yeah, I actually knew a finance guy who was both city manager and finance director, because they only had 4,000 people in the, I was a real estate agent at the time.
Yeah,
Uh,
I knew when I was a city clerk in finance.
Oh, wow.
I
Double
was,
duty.
I was HR, IT, finance, and risk manager at a previous city,
Wow.
50,000 population.
It's a couple of different hats there.
Here, I'm IT and finance only.
Oh, wow. You guys should expand IT, man. I'll help you out.
We're adding 2 people.
Oh.
You can apply at the position we run.
Okay, I just might. I guess I gotta be able to find it in time, and then I have to be
Keep an eye out.
qualified enough.
Yeah.
Well, with the 5 million raises that are automatic, and the extra.
They're not 5 million in raises.
Okay. Well,
It's
okay,
less.
your 10% is the 2, right? 2 million.
Yeah, I'd have to dig for that number, but I have it somewhere here. But it's,
And then the 10% on top.
There's-
of
yeah,
the raise portion on top of the 10%, I guess.
Yeah,
which
which
would
is
be
for-
school.
yeah, there was 2 4% cost of living increases that were deferred, that the employees never got. And then I think for fire, there's a police and fire didn't have anything, but there's one they'll get in 2017, January, and police had a 5%.
Okay, and when you do that, is it compounded on what they already get, the 4%, or is it 4% off of that, the other figure? Their beginning
Their
figure.
base salary is increased by 4%.
Okay, every time, so it's compounded.
It's one time. You get a bump up, that's your new hourly rate, and
From that hourly rate, another 4% on top of whatever the current hourly rate is.
there were 2 that
Okay.
expired at different, yeah.
Okay, as opposed to just 4% from 2007 and the same 4%, doled out equally, as opposed to, well, now you got a 4% raise, so now this new number, 4% of this higher number, and then 4% of this higher number.
Well, the numbers haven't gone up. I mean, the rates have stayed the same for the last 6 years. No one has got a raise.
Why, and this may be before your time, 2002, apparently there was a 44% increase across the board.
I don't think so. 2002? That sounds too much. 44? And it wouldn't have been across the board. There may have been a salary survey done, and there were adjustments made. Their police had a number of cost raises because we were trying to stay competitive with the other police forces. So there was like 5%, 5%, 6%, 5%. Just ratcheted up, and that that happened. I know that, and that might be what this is.
Okay, have you heard of Brett Landon?
Yeah, he's the one that has spoke out against raising the police rate or giving them too many all in a condensed period of time.
Right.
And I've studied it, I've mapped it out, because when you go into negotiation, we remind them.
Yeah, because
what
it becomes
they
an
get.
unfunded liability, more or less, right?
Yeah.
Eventually.
Police and fire are our biggest cost.
Of course.
Of the 14 million, guess how much is miscellaneous? Employees, like less than 2 of the 14. It's all police and fire. So people want more safety.
Do you see much disparity
It's just
between?
because they have the most employees and
Right. Well, and
the average rates are higher than average miscellaneous.
and I know one of the key reasons is they're risking their life every day.
Yes.
But there's a lot of other jobs where more people die in those industries than police officers. Do you see much disparity between upper, middle, and middle management as opposed to the workers in terms of income?
I don't think so. I mean, there is obviously higher, I mean, you can look at our salary schedule and,
Because
I think we have competitive wages.
Like, here's a sergeant, base pay and benefits and other pay, which is probably overtime. 300,000, police sergeant, 300,000. City manager rate gets 296, which is probably up to 345 now, I think. This is from, I think, 2012 or 2013, which is the last one that's on transparency.com.
Yeah, and that would
So-
be, it wouldn't change
That's
much.
like, 2 years ago.
Yeah, so it's gonna be about the same. Until we lift for the.
And off of a different website, I found 303, so it did go up a little bit, not much. 250 for just a police officer, and 250 for police sergeant. Let me see if I can get to a different range here.
So if you did a survey of other cities, we would probably be right in there. And so is there anything besides that? Because that's also like a whole, another topic that we could spend hours on that one.
Administrative secretary, 87,000. Engineer tech, 87,000. Park maintenance, wow, 87,000 park maintenance worker.
Relative to all the positions, it's pretty good. There's some outliers that are either too high or too low in certain instances based on someone making that decision, but we definitely try to keep everything relative and not despair.
The one statistic I made off of not this one, but a different one was over half, I think 220 out of 400 and something, we're making over 100,000, and that means the other half is, and more of them were in the 40 to 50,000 range, if not part time or something. Which, it just seemed like there was a major gap between, upper and management, and then the worker bees that were actually like, the boots on the ground for every department. But
No,
okay.
yeah, I haven't. And there's, police officers are boots on the ground, but I think there were over 200 employees that were over 100, but that was mainly overtime. Because they worked tons of overtime. So, last question?
Okay, the aggregate, I guess, because here's how I guess I've been hearing the three that were an unsustainable model, the pension, workers' comp, and healthcare, amounted to about $7 million with the last year's budget. Is that anywhere close to being correct?
What is 7 million? Last year's, which number?
Pensions, healthcare, and workers' comp.
So, given the cost, what they were last year and what they are this year, I'm not sure what the question is.
No, just last year alone.
Uh-huh.
How much did it cost for those three?
It cost last year alone. Here, there's PERS, and this is everybody. And then pension and health. Pension, health, and workers' comp.
Right.
It's all funds, 27 million out of 76 million for salary and benefits, and out of 116 million, this is all funds. So 27 out of 116 total, all funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and then we were looking at the things that are going through the roof. So how much of a difference do you think that is for this year? And I know it's on a step, but just this year, I guess.
this year, and do you want me to exclude G to make it apples and apples? Cause G is all new people, not, is that?
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I can do that, take out G, and the new number, or the change, cause I have everything else here, is, so, $3.5 million, all funds.
It doesn't seem that that big a deal.
No.
For
1 year, you know, and if that was the same every year, you could go from a, you know, $3 or $4 million shortfall, or 5, you know, add 3, you're up to 14 million real quick.
Right. Well, and
If that, yeah, maintained itself at that level.
Although some of it's going to rise and everything else will stay the same.
Yeah.
Why? I guess, and this may be a market question more than anything, but you know, it seems like one of the things we do is offer so much more money to be competitive, which puts us in a hole and puts us back in the deficit.
Yeah, we did that one time with the police, and we, obviously no one got a raise for 5-6 years, and we probably at least equalized or made up for that, maybe. We are gonna do a salary survey, and there's flaws, you know, pros and cons to that, or you know, if every city is doing salary surveys, you know, it just kinda adds up.
Right.
Yeah,
Gives
but-
us that housing bubble.
Right,
You know.
so that has happened, and so, for us, you know, we can't be just, you know, for our police, we can't be letting, the competitive nature of the industry drive our market here. And the police recognize that, and they've started to turn it inside Salinas for homegrown people that would love to have a job here and work here.
Right.
And we have a big program, and we would like to hire here. Right now, we need people, so we have an incentive to hire from
Anywhere.
sheriffs and anywhere. You know, and so that's gonna help, but we have an Explorer program where, I don't
Right.
know, and,
Yeah.
you know, all that
I've heard
is
that.
healthy. We can, and it's okay for us to be a revolving, I mean, it's not best for police, but train them and then they go somewhere else because they get better pay and less work. That will happen, but to me, that needs to be our model. It's philosophical. You know, we keep some good people, cause they wanna be here, but we just have to, I think, accept that and not necessarily be the bleeding edge of high salaries to keep people.
Right.
So it's a balance, you know, you don't wanna be the lowest, but you don't have to be the highest.
Well, it's treading water after a
Right.
little while, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the structural deficit, I don't think I remember the answer. Maybe you said it's at 14 million. What was it at last year?
Structural.
Yeah.
That was the biggest projection, cause we got more newspapers, so.
And it was never at the 30 million. Because we were never
30 million,
considering
like
that
out of whack.
the concession deal.
It grew to 14 from.
Oh. Okay, and I guess that was there.
11, that included capital, and I didn't include that, and I even mentioned it in here. 8.1 million of capital projects, so back out the 8, 9, 10, 11, so it's 3.3 million. And we were able to balance that, and then this gap is without capital, which I just described here. So for 16-17, it went from 7.3 down to 1.3. 16-17, and we had and revenue. A lot of it is measure G. 28 minus 22 is 6. So that's about right. And then we did, I don't know, cost did increase, but probably not as high as I had estimated. So it's about there,
Okay.
mainly revenue.
Well, that seems kind of doable.
Which
Seems-
is good
seems
that we
pretty
got
good.
revenue.
Yeah. Right. Well,
Yeah.
no matter what, you know, people are freer with their money these days, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but we're definitely, you know, wanting to be and serious about being responsible with what the public is entrusting us with Measure G. And we're putting,
I guess the only thing you can really do with any of this tax money is put it into some city service, right?
yeah, we're a service business. It's police is people. There's not that many paper supplies and contract services. It's people.
Right.
You know, and we have done 4 rounds of pension reform to help address it. We've had, you know, employees give up pay and benefits for 6 years now. We've gotten grants up this evening as far as paying for a lot of these. You know, so we're trying to do our part, and that's why the public, I believe, voted for this. They trust us. We've had a good track record. You know, can we do more? Yeah, we want to do more pension reform. We're planning on it. We're not there, and we said that during the last round.
That may be something only the state can address.
They can do it statewide, and we can do it locally. We've done it 3 of our own, and 1 was state. Is that right, or was it 2 and 2 out of the 4? Let's see, what did the state? Yeah, I think we did 3, and the state did 1. Pepra, no, this, yeah. And yeah, so we're, I think, very reasonable in what we've done in the last 6 years, and I've been here 4.
We have a population of at least about 160,000 maybe? Is that right?
155-ish.
Right, it's on our sign, but it's probably, I guess I've heard.
The state publishes it every May 1st, and it was 156, Department of Finance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's their estimate, but it's used for different purposes. Sales tax allocation, GAN limit calculations, so they publish it annually, and based on their information. Yeah, so it's about that.
And most of the funds that we're doing, I guess, are we doing much for after-school programs, or since it's not a city entity, you can't really put it in there?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of our after-school programs are recreational, but we have after-school as far as study things. And I'm not as familiar with what exactly the kids do, but
But it's almost sponsored by Parks and Rec.
it is. Yeah, yeah, Measure G is paying for 6 new recreation staff, and those will be after-school programs and recreation.
At the already sites of like Hebron Heights.
Yeah.
The one here next to the
Yeah, we're not having
library.
these sites right now.
Okay, but then they'll be able to offer like, you know, longer hours, I guess. Is that how it's gonna work, or just more interaction? I mean, basically you got pool and, you know, the little games
I
there.
think they can engage more programs at those sites instead of just having a part-time person there and just letting kids use the facility. They'll actually engage them and have set up programs and activities for them to do, and that'll draw more people in versus just
Hopefully,
yeah.
And anybody and everybody, you know, just positive experience. Seems like everything relies on a positive relationship. You know?
Interaction.
So that's
That's, that's a good question, I see what you're saying.
I mean, because I guess the way that it came across in the, like more after school programs, and it just seemed more like community effort rather as opposed to, but it's all city, it has to be through the city. And I guess I missed that point, which is okay. I mean, and I already know there's a lot of people going to be lining up saying, can I get a little piece of the pie? Because they do. I mean, and I guess that's why we drew back to only 3 per council person per year or something like that for presentations. But then you can still do it anyway. I'm sure you can still just walk in and ask.
Yeah.
Is there an application process for that?
To do a presentation?
No, to like be a nonprofit agency and say, city, can you help us out with a grant or something?
No, not really. There's a CDBG program, and then there's councils given like 17,000, not each, like that doled up 6 ways. That where we do little grants for neighborhoods or something like that. And as far as nonprofits, we have CDBG, those are usually about 10,000, and that's part of the whole community development block grant CDBG.
Which is just
funding.
right across from the bus station.
Yeah. So that's the only. I mean, there's some other little things that we do to help, but for the most part, the nonprofits are not funded by the city at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other than Dorothy's place, right? Or kitchen? That's owned by the city?
No, it's not.
Operated by the city?
No, I don't even think we give
Or
money.
the building's not either?
I think we own some property near there, and I'm not sure the logistics. Don upstairs would know exactly. We own 10 Soledad or 11 Soledad and some other. Anyway, some other-
Maybe Copacabana, I don't know.
That one we're leasing
Oh, leasing.
from the owner
Okay.
for homeless. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you've seen what's going on there, like in Hollister, in the little houses and that kind of thing.
No.
That'd be neat to see.
So, all right. So hour and 8 minutes, and I gotta get back on my
Yeah, I believe it.
my stuff. Right, stressing for me not
Well,
being
thank you. I
on top,
appreciate it.
getting to it. Sure.
Yeah, you're very insightful, actually. It doesn't sound like it's that bad. With it being $4 million this coming year, or in a couple of years, whenever that is, when you said it's going to start creeping itself back, is that on top of the $14 million already? The structural
as far as
deficit?
structural deficit. No, the new deficit is this, and that's as of yesterday. So I estimated. So 2, 3, 4, 4, 4. So right here you can see it drops actually. So
Okay.
we're going to level out at 4 million. If we can tackle that 4.4 million, we're good.
Okay, and that's per year? Or is it just going to
Yeah.
maintain itself there?
Yeah, so the revenue is the blue, the green is the expenditures. So structurally, our expenditures are more than revenue by 4.4. So if we can bring the expenses down or bring the revenue up, we're good.
Okay.
That's the gap.
And what kind of expenses can you cut?
An easy, non-strategic way is, all right, 80% of our cost is people, so.
Right, just
by-
wipe out a person.
Yeah.
Or a couple.
Right.
Well then, was it a great idea to go ahead and put on many more people if that's a major expenditure?
I think we're gonna, using party-based budget, reevaluate what programs we are offering and cut back. We're hopeful that revenues will be a little more healthier than needed. So we'll, year by year, we'll be managing, and I think we will be able to manage that if we, are adding, we're putting G to use, we're putting it to use right away, we have a healthy reserve, 8%, and if it doesn't pan out, if the general fund, we'll just have to reduce it and reconfigure things and still get what we need done. So, yeah, that's easy to just say, all right.
Get rid of 40 people. We'll balance.
Right. But we're not going to do that. We,
Yeah.
We had, I don't know, we had the bubble, and we lost, I don't know, I mean.
Oh yeah.
Quite a bit of revenue.
Yeah.
And we laid off 135 people.
Mhm.
And so that's a lot of people and a lot of money. And we've been building back, we've been adding to our reserves, little bits at a time. 300,000 is in there, adding to the general fund reserve, which is small, but it's building it up, and went from 0 because we depleted our reserves prior to me getting here, and we've built it up to a sizable. I don't know. I mean, in relation to our whole budget, I think it's 6%.
So there was a question that was asked directly with Jim Pia, and maybe, I don't know, you may not even be able to answer this, but it was like, well, if Measure G hadn't passed, would you be able to meet the rising pension and healthcare and raises and everything else? Would you be able to do it if Measure G wasn't there? And he said no, and then he had to go. But
that implies that we're using it to plug that hole, but we're not. We're could we have did it without it? We would have had to. Now now that we have it, we're not using it to plug back in. Other than the furlough thing of being open Friday. So.
Yeah, I'd love to see where
Yeah.
that was already like mentioned and terribly public, saying that it was going to be in there. I missed that
was
in the
what was going to be in there?
The Friday furloughs.
Oh.
And I guess the only thing I have to draw off of is an email from the city saying vote yes on Measure G, for public safety, and on the website but none of that ever mentions anything about any Friday furlough.
Well,
Yeah, when you have time, if you ever think of it.
It's either definitely indirectly, but directly, I think, because to increase services, enhance any service, that means more manpower or man hours, and we're adding.
Well, I'm glad to see it's open baptism. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's where you should be at.
All right, Wes.
All right. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.